Thank you! Thank you! I could not think of a better opening after playing that level to start this live review with. Hello everyone, welcome to the 10th episode of Fullicide Live, and in this live review we're going to be reviewing Rayman Legends. I'm Fullicide SD, host of the Fullicide Live broadcast, and like I said, today we're reviewing Rayman Legends, not Origins. Although Origins actually technically is in Legends, and I'll get to that in a moment. But a few notes before we really get into it, as the kind of opening gameplay sits here on my shoulder. The audio, I had a few issues. I was talking with a few people in chat. I was having some audio recording issues with XSplit in capturing the game. Some of my viewers in chat are noting that it's likely from XSplit with some potential bad recording issues, and I do have a possible solution to the... Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and turn that down so I'm not getting feedback. As I was saying, I have a potential solution to really just basically buff the decibels, not too much so that it's peaking or causing feedback, but just enough so that it would be at a better volume level for recording purposes and for archive purposes. So I'm very sorry that the volume is going to be turned down for this review, but honestly, the game is so fun that you don't really need to hear all of it. It's just, as that introduction really showed, Rayman Legends is a ton of fun in a year that's really based around games that could be considered frustrating or overly challenging. And Rayman, as some may know, and as some who, like me, have not played a Rayman in a very long time, it is a platformer. It's a 2D to 3D meshing of a platformer where you play as Rayman, the limbless character on screen. He has feet, he has hands, he has a head and a torso, but nothing to connect them except air. And so basically, yeah, this is Rayman. I'll go ahead and flip to the larger screen. And you play as Rayman, and he is accompanied by a plethora of heroes to choose from in Legends. That I wish I could actually name all of them outside of Rayman, the Glowbox, Murphy, and the Teensies. The King Teensy, the Queen Teensy, Ray Teensy, Glowbox Teensy, all of those, but there are dozens of heroes to play as in this local co-op platformer that I unfortunately did not get to play in co-op because it's only local. But that's really one of the very, very few downsides or issues with the game, if you even want to consider it that. The game doesn't have much of a story. It centers around Rayman basically rescuing the Teensies. For those who don't know, a Teensy is... Well, we'll go ahead and give it a pause when we get to a moment where there is a Teensy. You saw a few before. They are glowing yellow in this portion of the game because this is actually a level I went back and replayed. This is the first level of the game, and I liked it so much and really just kind of wanted to acclimate to the controls I set for myself on the PC that I decided to play it again. And we actually just skipped a Teensy, so, and I'm gonna have an issue if I have to keep re-saying that word because, you know, it just kind of sounds a little odd. It was cool back when, for the original Rayman games and rescuing said characters, but now it's just kind of like, kind of an odd word. Anyways, so you rescue those, and you also collect looms, and that is a Teensy right here. Has a big long nose. Again, they're normally blue, and they're differentiated from their clothes. And yeah, you can play as a few of those as well. Moving forward. So you also collect looms, and basically there is no real story. You're set up with a bit of a backstory at the beginning of the game, where Rayman and the Teensy people have slept for years at a time. I believe it was thousands? I actually probably should have looked that up. But hey, again, this is only the 10th episode, and we're working with what we have. So They slept for many a millennia, and evil was allowed back into the world. And so the Teensies were captured, and Rayman and company are sent back to fight the good fight. And as Rayman, basically what you do is you jump, punch, kick, and sprint your way through 2D and slightly 3D platform worlds, and we'll see more of that as the review progresses. Again, I said earlier that I played on PC. I played on a keyboard, and normally I would prefer to play a platformer on a controller. I can say from the controls I saw within the game that the controls on on any of the controllers, because I don't actually use a controller for my PC, not yet, I should. The controls would work out fantastic. You do have, if you're like me, you do have to do a little changing of the controls to really suit your hand, suit where you would like your hands to be. They use the arrow controls to move Rayman throughout the world, and yeah, that's really the only notable thing to say about the controls. Outside of, if you're not playing on the Wii U, Murphy, the green frog with wings, I guess we'll call him. He's not really a bug. Is he a bug? We're going with he's not a bug. Again, one of those things I probably could have looked up, but it makes it more fun. We're just going to call him Frog with Wings, to be politically correct. As a viewer of mine put it, Yabe, glad to have you here. So, if you're not playing on a Wii U, which has a touch interface, we'll use a phone for an example, you would be basically touching where Murphy needs to be interacting with. In this situation, on a keyboard or a controller, Murphy occupies about 3 buttons. It's Murphy left, Murphy right, and Murphy. Murphy left and Murphy right, this is a good example of where you would be using Murphy left and Murphy right, tells him which way to turn an object or which way to move an object within the environment. He also does this of his own will. Hey Drop, glad to have you here. Hey Gangsta, nice to have you here again. Feel free to shout out any questions. We actually had a rough start where the internet kicked off or died or whatever the heck you want to call it, and so we're basically redoing the introduction. Thanks for the compliment on the shirt. I was actually wearing a coat, but the coat was too hot, so what do you do? Anyways, so as I was saying, Murphy basically moves throughout the environment, and it's interesting. I could tell areas where Murphy would actually have a less difficult, or less challenging is the best way to put it, time interacting with a Wii controller, and a more difficult time interacting with the Wii controller, and it's actually fairly vice versa in the platform and PC, or not platform because I guess the Wii U is technically a platform. The PS3 and the Xbox 360 controls and the PC controls, they're basically vice versa from the Wii U. Now, using Murphy in the way that they did, designating the buttons they used for him in the way that they did, functioned very well. I actually enjoyed the challenges it would present, and the non-challenges, and we'll get to more of that later. Now, what you're seeing here is actually we'll designate it as a rescue area, where I just generally die a lot. You'll actually see me attempt this area quite a few times before I actually succeed, and we won't let the 25 minutes of initial gameplay really play out, but we'll let it mostly play out. And again, you know, this creates an interesting opportunity to look at the way in which Murphy can interact with the world, and it allows Rayman to change the way in which he interacts with the world. Very cool stuff. Now, other things to really note as I die here quite a few times before we skip ahead. Oh, I actually must have cut that part. I know I died there quite a bit. So anyways, doing great with this review so far. Basically, you have the opportunity to pick from quite a few heroes, move throughout the world, and one of the really noteworthy characteristics of the game is the audio and graphic quality. Just beautiful imagery, wonderful soundtrack. For those who just... What's up, Tyler? It's good to have you here, man. How you doing? So, the game itself has beautiful imagery, beautiful audio. For those who just entered into the chat within the live broadcast, what you missed was an awesome section where you played through a level that basically queued up Black Betty, the song, in Rayman style, as you actually progress through the level. So it would actually play Black Betty in a fashion as you progress through the level. It just, again, these phenomenal little touches add to such a complete package. And yeah, we're just going to continue to really see what the game has to offer here. So, going to skip ahead. And again, if you have any questions, this is a live review format, so feel free to throw out any questions that you might have about the gameplay, the audio. For those who just entered into the chat, I had some issues recording the audio for the game. Have a solution for later when I have the same issue recording the audio. So it's very light. If I need to turn the mic down so you can turn your speakers up to hear basically the game audio, feel free to let me know. Anyways, so jumping ahead. And this is all very initial gameplay, still playing as Rayman. I believe this is only the second level, so it's not really missing much, but this will allow us to just continue with the review and really look into the game. So, one thing to really talk about is the score screen here. Sorry for the jumping, and we're just going to let the rest of the game play out. There was a very cool element they include to move throughout the environment where you basically switch where you're at within the 3D environment. Again, one of those very cool elements, very well done, and here is the basic Mario completion event for the game itself, where you basically get your score, see how well you've done. And the score screen is very rewarding. I've been, in the past live reviews, talking about how lower mic volume boosts general audio output. See, the audio output I have right now is unfortunately as high as it can go. So I can lower the mic volume if you guys need to turn up your speakers. Will that help? Let me know, chat. Will that help? Unfortunately, as far as my as far as the settings in XSplit allow, you can basically turn up your speaker volume, which basically captures more volume within XSplit, and you can basically balance between how much speaker output you have, how much mic output you have, and I can lower the mic output so that you guys can have more speaker output, but unfortunately my speaker output is as high as it will go. So I'm getting at least one person in chat who's saying he's doing well on the volume side. So again, yeah, but let me know if I need to turn down my mic volume, if that'll help you in turning up your speakers. And in fact, I'll just give it a little adjustment, so maybe that'll help. If I turn the mic down too much, let me know. So basically, one thing to skip back here and talk about, again, is the score screen. In the past live reviews I've been doing, I've been talking about how things feel rewarding, how things don't feel rewarding. The music that really led into that score, the way in which it fills up the number of looms you get, the way in which it gives you trophies and lucky wild cards or scratch cards is really what they are. I'll get more into those later. Is just gives a very rewarding sense with the hero dancing and just, this is a fun game, period. And what you're seeing here now is the gallery. You move throughout the worlds and the stories through the gallery system, and it allows you to access different levels, saving different heroes in different levels. We'll talk about more about that in just a bit before we move to the first break. And there are other things you can access too. Hero galleries, trophy galleries. You can access what we just passed that's locked there is the Rayman Origins gallery, which allows you to access old levels in Rayman that were from Rayman Origins. Fun stuff, very fun stuff. Here, what you're seeing now, if you have the opportunity to play co-op, I said I did not have the opportunity to play co-op because it is only local co-op. It is there's no online co-op, sadly. But hey, it's definitely always good to have local, I say, because it gives you the opportunity to have fun with your friends in the same room. Of course, online is always advantageous as well, but hey, I actually prefer having local over simply just no local at all. So right here is another little fun game that you can play with friends if you're Yabe was noting for the future doing an audio boost. I will look into those kinds of things. I was looking into that with Audacity, boosting the audio of the recorded footage with Audacity. But hey, again, this is only the 10th episode, and we're working with what we got. Anyways, so fun little soccer game that you could have with 3 other friends if you wanted to really just kind of move away from just level play. But the thing about the levels in Rayman is every single one, and I'm going to emphasize that, every single level is unique in its own way, adds something to the gameplay, adds something to just make that level in and of itself cool, fun, and unique. Here, what we're seeing is the gallery, where you can access tons of different heroes. I actually was mentioning earlier how I couldn't name all of them because there are just so many. You unlock one, I believe it's every 100,000 looms. It starts off, I believe, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. Here we go. 9,000. Oh, I was moving really fast. And up to 1 million. So there, as you can see, there are tons of heroes to pick from. There's really no difference between which hero you're playing as, so you can just kind of have your lucky heroes. I actually felt like a few of those were my lucky heroes where I could just really ace a level if I wanted to play as that hero, and just really to change up the scenery of your gameplay, just to play as something else. But they all do the same thing. They jump, they punch, they kick, they have a good time. And that's, again, what is so refreshing about this game. Because in a year where you're basically just shooting and slicing things with swords and not really... You're experiencing challenges through respawning and, again, trying to face down that same challenge. Great examples of this would be... What would be a great example of this? Blacklist. Blacklist would be a great example where you're simply moving through a mostly linear space, either trying to do so with stealth or with combat, and most games these days do that. And the issue with that is that most games are doing that, and that's what really makes Rayman so refreshing to have on multiple platforms, not to just have on one platform. I know there were some complaints when Rayman was announced that it wouldn't be just on Wii U. Obviously that hurts some Nintendo fans. That hurts for a lot of dedicated console players when your console isn't the only one getting a game when it was supposed to. But this is good for all players because it's refreshing to have. It's like having Little Big Planet again, because Little Big Planet was such a step outside of everything we're experiencing lately, whether it be something like Skyrim, Dark Souls, or Call of Duty. It's, again, just so fun and so genuine. The challenges you face, actually we're going to give it a pause here. The challenges you face are of your own accord. You don't really have to find yourself going into the most difficult levels before you can really feel like you can master them, and you don't really feel like you have to get every single loom unless you want to. You don't have to rescue every single teensy if you don't want to. I mean, that's kind of mean. They cry for help, and it tugs at the heartstrings to really have to pass one up if it's too difficult to actually rescue one. But you don't have to save them. All you have to do are complete the levels. Me, personally, I try and save as many as I can and get as many looms as I can because I enjoy a challenge. But again, it's that self-inflicted challenge, not, well, you're going to keep dying, otherwise you don't get to the rest of the game, like in most shooters. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about, one of the kind of, I guess, I'm not going to call it a negative, just it doesn't really do much, is right here, the kind of scratch-away card. Now, initially, I was just like, oh, so you basically scratch the card, and if you don't align all three before you've scratched the whole card away, you don't get it. But as I did there, I actually did scratch the whole card away, and I still was able to unlock the creature. And you kind of just, again, this is just kind of a cool add-on for the game, where you scratch the card away, and then that's about it. You still get it anyways. And again, that's not really a complaint. You're still getting, what you wanted out of it. But to make it a little more challenging, it could have been like, all right, well, you scratched the wrong block, and now you have to go back and get the card. But again, these are those kinds of self-imposed challenges. You don't need to get the cards. You have to collect the looms to unlock the lucky cards, is what they are in the what they're referred to in the actual game. You collect a number of looms beyond the silver trophy before you get the gold trophy, and you unlock the card. So what we're going to be moving into now is the rescue mission, and also some extra hero gameplay. As I noted again, the other heroes, this one is to rescue Aurora. I played as the redhead. Again, I didn't memorize her name because there were so many heroes, and I actually played as over a dozen of them through my 18-hour playthrough, and I didn't actually, I'll admit, I didn't even finish the game because I was having so much fun with it that I said to myself, I don't want to rush through this. I want to be able to go back and enjoy this because it's so much fun. So, I play as, let's find out. It doesn't say her name. Crap. Anyways, drop the ball on that one. I was playing as Sir Ray a lot, and I switched to the redhead. We will call her the redhead. I'm sorry, redhead. And yeah, so there are no differences in heroes. They don't bring any special abilities. They can all jump, float after their jump, so they kind of do a little bit of a glide. And they punch and kick. That's about it. But it's alright. They add aesthetic value to the game. Also, another cool little value, what you saw back there, switching between the gallery and the level, was a little bit of a loading screen. You can actually control what the character does inside the loading screen. Hey Menace, how's it going? There's actually a couple people in chat, so I believe everyone's just kind of content with listening to me ramble on for a bit, but thanks for being here, man. Today we're reviewing Rayman Legends, and as I've been repeating it a bit, but it's okay, for the live broadcast sake. The game audio had some trouble recording it, but let me know if I need to turn my mic down so you can turn your speakers up. My speaker volume is maxed for the gameplay, so again, I can turn the mic down if you need to turn your speakers up a little more. But again, talking about the levels, this is just another cool element. I had not experienced a falling level before I got to this level with the moving objects in the world, and really just kind of experiencing this falling level for the first time. There are more falling levels, and there are also unique changes to those kinds of levels as well. We're actually going to be getting to that right after this. But one thing I wanted to note about these hero rescue missions, this was actually a hero rescue mission, was that it didn't really feel like I was rescuing heroes. In fact, in none of them you really feel like you're rescuing a hero. You receive a hero, a new hero skin, if that's what you want to call it, for doing these missions. But outside of that, it didn't give a feeling of you actually rescue the hero. And that was really one of the drawbacks of the game, was just like, well, you say I'm rescuing someone, but I don't believe you. So I unlocked one of the other characters, and I'll actually move into playing as this character, Aurora. And we're just going to go ahead and let that play out, and I'll answer some questions in chat before we move to part 2, where we'll look at boss battles, some later stage gameplay, and, again, take more questions, because, honestly, there really isn't much to say outside of just such a beautiful game. Probably the highest scored game I'll have for quite some time. Well, unless this is a rocking gaming season coming up here in October and November, but who knows. So, we're going to go ahead and let this play out, and what are we doing? A+, laugh out loud, doing some homework too. Alright. And again, just feel free to shout any questions. I'm going to go ahead and full screen it until we have some questions. and yeah, just let the gameplay play out for viewers' sake. Gabe actually brings up a great question, something I almost missed. The looms, one of the collectibles, and the teensies both affect the gameplay. And that is something I've also been emphasizing in all of my first kinds of live reviews, how collectibles should influence the gameplay, how it's important for collectibles to really feel like they're expanding the game. As you collect or rescue the teensies, as I just did there, as Aurora, it unlocks more levels. There are chains and locks on each of the gallery pieces, and the more teensies you have, the more levels you unlock. You unlock Origins maps, which allow you to go back and play the original, some of the original levels that were in the DS, I believe it was the DS game, of Rayman Origins, and I'm dead again, yeah. And yeah, other than that, looms expand the number of heroes you have and just unlock more content, more items in your galleries, and it's just really one of those experiences where you feel rewarded the more you get. And that is really just one of the best aspects of this kind of gameplay. Much like Angry Birds for Angry Birds players, if you loved getting as many stars as you could, just advancing the gameplay like that. Just lots of fun, playing as more kinds of heroes, playing through the levels again to see if you can perfect score them. Just that kind of Mario, Rayman, Sonic style of play. Very good time, again, very refreshing to see in a generation where it's really about the shooters, really about the story experiences, things like that. You don't experience much of a story. Thanks, Tyler. You're not leaving yet, are you, man? Let me know if you're leaving. I'll, definitely give you a shout out. Have a good night, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just the reward is the gameplay itself, and that is the best part. That obviously is always the best part about a game. So, have a good one, man. Have a good one, Tyler. Glad to have you here. Later. Menace actually just tuned in, so we'll go ahead and go over it again because it is definitely a point that's worth saying and kind of elaborating on a little more. The backstory is very simple. Again, much like Angry Birds. When I did my written review for the old style of the site for Angry Birds, I talked about how the story worked. It was actually great. Even though didn't seem like there was anything there. You have these kinds of drawn-out captions and photos of the pigs angry that their nest, the eggs in their nest were missing. And it worked so well to kind of get you angry at these pictures of pigs that were laughing maniacally, that were laughing maniacally and just kind of really being spiteful, and it worked. And it's the same kind of sense that you get for playing Rayman Legends. You're rescuing teensies, and there is an antagonist, and it kind of feels good to see that those antagonists kinds of get what they have coming to them. And it's just very cartoony and fun, like the old Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote kind of thing, where it's just fun to watch play out, where there isn't much to it, where you're not like, oh, I rescued this character and they're being incredibly dramatic now. No, it's very simple. It's very, the Rayman crew, the heroes of the universe, slept for a millennia, and the darkness retook the world, and now it's up to the Rayman crew to save the teensies once more from their captors. And that's literally what you do. You move throughout the worlds and save the teensies. And again, they just kind of tug at your heartstrings, the way they just say, help me, help me. And it's very fun. It doesn't require much. It's not overdone, and that's about it. It doesn't require much. So, the gameplay for this part is about to wrap up. We'll continue to take some questions, and if there are no more questions, we'll just move into a break and close out Part 2 with chase scenes, boss battles, and really the frantic gameplay that you've seen in any commercials that you may have seen for the game. And yeah, it's really when you really have that kind of momentum in your gameplay where you're moving through lasers and just really cool elements, just moving through the level like a boss, that really feels rewarding. So that's what we'll be viewing next. And like I said, if there's no more questions, we'll just move into Part 2. Whoops. Thank you, Menace, for noting. I actually mute it whenever I go to full screen, just in case I'm going to like do something on the side. Sometimes I have to fiddle with something in my hands, and there's no need to kind of hear that background noise. But as I was saying, one of the things to note in Rayman, for those who aren't familiar with the series style, in Sonic, you had rings. In Mario, you had mushrooms and other kinds of abilities. And when you got hit, you would lose Mario's sides. You would lose your rings. In Sonic, with Rayman, you have a heart. And when you lose that heart, you basically one more hit and you're gone. And it's not something to be considered difficult, but that's just its style. Something worthy of note about the game. And right about here is where we move into the next section. So I'm going to check if there's any more questions before we move on, and we'll conclude Part 1. Part 1 was a little zany. We had some issues with the internet. We have some audio issues. We keep talking about it, but that's okay. Again, this is only episode 10, and we're working with what we have, doing the best we can, and having fun with it. So, if there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and play a song, and move into Part 2. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. Thank you for being here for Part 1. Gonna go ahead and start up the second part.